Hi there. This is a quick addendum news follow-up to the State of the Industry video I did last week on WB Games, the video game division for Warner Brothers Discovery, because how of all of the major TV platforms and movie studios, Warner Discovery is really the only one that still has an in-house video game division. Everyone else, like EA or something, does Star Wars for Disney or what have you, and Sony is more of a video game company that happens to have a bad movie studio, but Disney doesn't do this, Netflix doesn't do this. They're the only one that has their own in-house video game division, and they've had a string of problems that for every hit, like Hogwarts Legacy was Game of the Year in terms of sales, or even Mortal Kombat 1, you have Suicide Squad kill the Justice League, which was a $200 million net loss for everyone, or there are other attempts at live service games which have not been doing well. So there's a big argument that they need to sell it to make $5 billion cash in hand to pay off their other debts, and whoever they sell it to might be able to handle it better. Now, we don't think they're going to sell it soon, or they're not trying to, but there have been major shakeups. Just as I was editing together my State of the Industry video out by January 23rd, a difference of hours, just as I was putting it together, so I slapped it in at the end of a 30-minute video, I said, breaking news, David Haddad, who has been the head of WB Games for 12 years, has announced his resignation. Or that he will resign. It's going to be a phased resignation, that he'll be out in 3 months, but he'll train up the next person to smooth the transition. Wow. That there used to be people, like in other parts of the entertainment industry, like Richard Plepler was head of HBO for, 10 years more? And then before Chris Albert, that you used to measure CEO turnover in decades or years scale. And now with all these mega mergers, there's shakeups all the time. But through everything that happened at Warner Games, he was still always the head. There were no fundamental changes. And the guy who's been in charge for 12 years is out. And this at least signals that even if they're not selling it, there are going to be major shakeups at WB Games. Keeping in mind that they said that they are going to focus on 4 core franchises: Harry Potter, DC Comics, Mortal Kombat, and Game of Thrones. But of these, they've only, in the past 2 years since the mega merger, put out games for the 3 out of 4 of those. We haven't had a full-scale Game of Thrones entry yet. We've had mobile game stuff like that Kings Row thing. I talked about that in the main video, but to their credit, their J.B. Perrette, the liaison to Warner Discovery, has said last spring, he said, even if we start attempts at a major Game of Thrones video game now, these things take 3 to 5 years to make, so don't expect it like next year, nor would I. And he said we're going to be keeping the name out by putting out mobile games, but that's just promotional stunts, basically. So now that they've actually kicked out the head guy, I think they might actually be putting their money where their mouth is in terms of major changes. Now, I'm splitting this off as a separate video because originally I spliced it in at the end of like a 30-minute video, 35 minutes into it, and I want to draw more attention to there really are major shakeups coming in the video game division, which affects us in 2 ways. Indirectly through the amount of money that Warner Discovery has, if they actually sold this or not, or had a successful game under new leadership, would increase the war chest to give bigger episode counts back to Game of Thrones projects. But second, more directly, they might actually make a full-scale Game of Thrones video game, the likes of which we've never really seen. We've never had our version of the Witcher games or Knights of the Old Republic for Star Wars or something like that, so who knows? The sky's the limit. I talk about what I would do as a video game in my longer video. I said, stop making I'm another friend of Jon Snow's you've never heard of. I want an original character and make it sandbox, non-linear. Make it like Game of Thrones Mercenaries. Particularly because Duncan Egg is coming out and he's kind of a mercenary. He's a hedge knight. I would do that, taking contracts, doing stuff that would fit the live service model, even if you think about it, if you're upgrading your weapons. So I talk about all that in the main video. But to keep this under 7 minutes, there was yet another piece of news that came out. I couldn't even keep up with the edits to this. Like I said, just as I was putting out the other video. If it was 12 hours later, I would have posted it without it, splicing in that Haddad is out. The head for 12 years is out. 5 days after that, so just rushing in, by the way, they did kick out the head of the game division as I was editing it. 5 days later, they announced that they're going to, for the first time ever, start supporting fan mods. Official technical support and kits for fan mods. Because in my video, I made this meme, the Skinner from The Simpsons meme, I was saying, why do they keep making games where you're yet another friend of Jon Snow in a mobile game, and the urge that ruined Suicide Squad of let's turn it into a live service game. I'm like, there are fan mods, like I was ribbing Fantasy Haven over this. He's another channel he's done a lot of the Crusader Kings fan mods for Westeros, for Game of Thrones, are very popular, and doing playthroughs and reviews of that, and it's a widespread thing. So I was making fun of how you'd think that they would follow the trends set by popular fan mods and try to ride the coattails of that. Let's make a game that's actually like that, or support it. To chase after that, no. The fans are wrong. We'll keep churning out crappy live service games rather than support fan mods. I made that video, I posted those memes. 5 days later, for the first time in its history, WB Games started supporting fan mods for Hogwarts Legacy. So, wow. That, as much as they could in a limited time span, I know it takes 5 years to make some games, within a week they got rid of their old head and they started supporting fan mods. So this is really a new day at WB Games. Keeping this short down to 7 minutes though, so check out the main video. This is just a follow-up on that. If they did make major changes, every internal source to Variety and stuff is saying they don't intend to sell, but they do intend major shakeups, which is good. Our fear was they just out of inertia, they would refuse to sell, but also refuse any major reforms, and they just keep on the games division as this vestigial thing they pretend doesn't exist and gets no attention. While not selling it as such for cash in hand, it does seem they really are following through on an actual initiative to revitalize WB Games. So this is going to be big ongoing news for the next couple of months. Obviously, so there's a 3-month transition period, but who knows, a year from now, like behind-the-scenes discussions are probably going on right now of how do we make a Knights of the Old Republic or Mass Effect scale thing for the Game of Thrones universe. We'll see what the future holds, but things are in motion now.